Here's what's coming up tonight on Inside City Hall.
Every single person at DSNY is focused fully on snow removal. That's why you have 2,600 people working 12-hour shifts.
That was Mayor Mamdani on New York One earlier today, breaking down the city's snow operations after the powerful winter storm dropped 15 to 20 inches across the city.
All schools will be fully open and operational tomorrow.
It's back to school tomorrow for public school students across the 5 boroughs after the first traditional snow day today since 2019. Tonight, I'll be joined by Christina Farrell, the city's Emergency Management Commissioner, to talk about the city's snow response. We'll also talk to Yume Kitase, the newly appointed Commissioner of the Department of Citywide Administrative Services. For the best news, debate, and analysis of New York politics, join us inside City Hall. Good evening. Welcome to Inside City Hall for Monday, February 23rd, 2026. I'm Errol Lewis. Cleanup efforts are underway after a powerful winter storm dumped nearly 2 feet of snow on the 5 boroughs overnight Sunday and through most of today. It marks the heaviest snowfall the city has seen since 2016. New York City remains in a state of emergency, and while the travel ban has been lifted, a hazardous travel advisory remains in place until midnight tonight. Let's turn now to our weather center, where Chief Meteorologist John Davitt leads us off with tonight's top story. Good evening, John.
Yeah, hi there, Errol. This is a big one. We don't get many of these, maybe every 10, 15 years. This is going to leave a mark. All right, let's go show you what's going on. Take a look on the satellite. This is still an enormous system. Thankfully, it is far away from us at this point. But yeah, that area of low pressure, you can kind of see even an eye on the satellite. Sometimes they call these big monster nor'easters snowacanes, or the hurricanes of winter, because they've got that rotation and that eye, and they're just so strong. So take a look at some of these storm stats. It snowed for 30 consecutive hours in New York City. This was the 9th greatest snowfall we've seen, and that's over the last 158 years. So yeah, we cracked the top 10 with this one. And like I said, these are rare. This is the 3rd biggest storm we've seen in the past 2 decades, 20 years. So certainly we are going to be cleaning this up. Why was this one different? We get nor'easters. What was special about this? What was special is everything came together. It was the jet stream. Those are winds in the upper atmosphere, and then a surface low. And they came together at the perfect spot, the perfect track. And we ended up with all the snow that you see out our windows. And it wasn't just us. From Philadelphia to Boston, there were heavy snows. The worst area was Long Island. They set all-time snow records, beating some of the snow records from the late 70s, almost 30 inches in some parts of Long Island. Here are the 5 borough numbers: 19.7 at Central Park. LaGuardia saw the most, 22.5, 20.1 at JFK. These are the 3 official snowfall measuring stations for the city. So winds, that was a factor too. We saw a lot of downed trees around and some big trees. So we get strong winds, but not normally with a winter storm, but you do when you have a blizzard-like condition. So over 60-mile-an-hour winds with that system today and yesterday. That was at JFK. What comes next? It's going to be a meltdown, and it's going to come quick, way quicker than last time. Take a look at our temperatures. Tomorrow's cold, 32 degrees, but after that, in the 40s. So be ready for slush tomorrow and the days to come. But I think we'll get rid of this storm, or most of it, I'd say 7 days.
John, thanks so much for what has been an incredible amount of help in getting through all of this. Let me ask you what I think a lot of our viewers are wondering. Is this going to be the new normal? Are we going to be back to winters where we can expect a foot or 2 of snow at least once during the winter?
No, probably not. With our warming climate, this is an anomaly. So we can see more storms like this because we get more intense systems, but the cold we've seen this winter, that is unique. So yeah, I think this is a one that we will not see repeated anytime soon.
All right, thanks very much, John. Mayor Mamdani is once again leading the city's response to a major snowstorm, not long after his administration was scrutinized closely for its response to the last icy mess that covered the city for weeks. Our Dan Rivley was at the mayor's afternoon snow briefing and joins me now with more. Good evening, Dan.
Good evening, Errol. So the storm is officially over. Now becomes the task of digging New York out of nearly 2 feet of snow. Mayor Mamdani spent the day updating New Yorkers on the progress and how they can help dig out as part of a civilian corps of snow shovelers.
Judging from current forecasts, the worst has passed.
A travel ban lifted as of noon. Schools to be open on Tuesday. Thousands of crosswalks and bus stops cleared of snow, with thousands more to go. Sanitation crews digging the city out with the help of paid emergency civilian snow shovelers. $30 an hour with 2 forms of ID.
That's a program that is focusing predominantly on crosswalks, sidewalks, unsheltered bus stops, and thanks to their work, we've already been able to more than double the number of New Yorkers who are doing that.
The storm dumped nearly 2 feet of snow on the city, barely after the snow from the last storm had dissipated, and barely after the Mamdani administration had dug itself out of the scrutiny over its handling of that last storm and the cold snap that turned snow piles into ice mounds. The deep freeze killed at least 15 people. This time, it appears nobody has died.
So as of now, we are not aware of any deaths related to this blizzard on our city streets or in public areas.
Here's the storm response by the numbers as of the mayor's Monday afternoon briefing at the city's emergency management headquarters in Brooklyn. Homeless services staff put people into shelter 79 times, 2,600 sanitation workers out on each 12-hour shift, about 1,300 emergency snow shovelers, 300 calls of downed trees. 2,200 bus stops cleared by Monday morning. On New York One, Mayor Mamdani discussed how the city is staying on top of the big dig out this time.
We've geotagged all the bus stops and crosswalks so that the city knows all the locations and the last time that they were cleaned.
Meanwhile, there will be no garbage pickup through Tuesday, so sanitation crews can focus on snow removal. And as our chief meteorologist John Tavitt just said, one factor working in Mamdani's favor is the warm temperatures that are coming by the end of the week and get some of that snow melted, Errol.
And it seems like his whole team was there. The school's chancellor, we saw the sanitation commissioner, the OEM commissioner, and everybody. Sounds like everybody tried to up their game for this particular storm.
Yeah, that's right. He had everyone at the command center, the emergency management center in Brooklyn. Even the head of the MTA was there. Dare I say, maybe a little Cuomo-esque, right? The former governor who made his name on emergency management. But this was Mayor Mamdani trying to show he was on top of it, especially some big decisions, right? Like making sure schools are open tomorrow, making sure the travel ban gets lifted, but drivers are still safe on the road. And of course, working with the MTA to make sure anyone who has to go out can do so safely on mass transit.
And when it came to that travel ban, what was the specific goal of that? I was thinking of the 2010 blizzard when people got stuck behind buses that were immobilized. But what was the reason they wanted the roads completely cleared last night?
Well, basically to have sanitation crews and emergency vehicles basically have free access to the roads. But I think it's an important to note it can be dangerous for drivers to be out on the roads, and we saw it can turn deadly. Especially we saw in upstate New York some years ago, people died when they were stuck. So you want to make sure there is no one stuck out there in a deep snowfall like that. So it also helped emergency crews and sanitation do their job, salt the roads, and plow it.
All right, thanks a lot, Dan. The city's public school children today enjoyed their first true snow day since 2019. But it is back to school tomorrow over the objections of some parents and elected officials. Our Bobby Kuza joins me now with that part of the story. Good evening.
Good evening, Errol. And I think the decision to have a traditional snow day today was fairly uncontroversial. I know school kids were pretty happy about it. The decision to reopen tomorrow, though, is at least somewhat divisive. Mayor Zohran Mamdani had a message for students on Monday.
I do have some tough news to share. School will be in person tomorrow. You can still pelt me with snowballs when you see me.
Indeed, snowballs and sledding were officially approved activities Monday, as the city opted not to conduct remote learning, as it did during last month's storm, thanks to the snow coming at the end of the week-long winter break.
You had a lot of students and teachers who were potentially going to be stranded outside of the city as they were trying to come back in for school on Monday. And we also didn't have students leaving their schools with their devices as we typically do in anticipation of snowfall.
Ordinarily, a snow day would require the city to add an extra day of instruction at the end of the school year. But in this case, the state education department granted a waiver.
The waiver means that the city will not have to pay upwards of tens of millions of dollar fine because of the state law requiring 180 days of instruction. And the reason we applied for that waiver is this was a confluence of events. You might call it a perfect storm.
But the decision to reopen schools Tuesday was not without controversy. A petition to make school remote attracted tens of thousands of signatures, and several elected officials objected, including the city council's Republican members, who said in a statement, quote, "The decision to open schools for in-person learning tomorrow is hasty and misguided. Many outer borough neighborhoods have been disparately impacted by this storm, and given the sheer volume of snow, need much more time and resources to make roads safe and passable. It is going to be impossible for many students to reach school and for parents to get to work by tomorrow morning, and as a result, there will be mass absenteeism." While Catholic schools will be open in Manhattan and the Bronx on Tuesday, those on Staten Island will remain closed, while Brooklyn and Queens Catholic schools will conduct remote learning. But city officials said public schools will be ready.
We made sure we deployed all 8,000 employees to make sure that we're clearing every bit of our school property across our 1,400 physical properties. We definitely know that mass transit tomorrow and our school buses will be up and running, so we anticipate all our students and staff make every effort to get to school tomorrow, but we will make sure we're down to asphalt and concrete sidewalks at every school.
And Mayor Mamdani also made the point that the schools will be ready to offer hot meals. Of course, you know, schools offer free breakfast and free lunch to any student, and some families really do rely on that. Also wanted to mention the teachers union. They didn't really take a position on this question of whether to reopen schools tomorrow, but they kind of straddled the line a little bit. I mean, they said they recognize the hardship that this could pose for some teachers and staff getting to school, and reminded teachers they can fill out a form, a sort of a waiver, and that there is an excused 3-hour I believe 3-hour absence if there's an extraordinary difficulty in traveling to work.
Well, it sounds like both sides are right, meaning when the mayor says, oh, there's some people who couldn't get back to the city, and we have colleagues who couldn't get back to the city, somewhere out of the country and can't get back to the United States, that might be true for a number of teachers as well.
Yes, and they may not be back by tomorrow.
Right.
But I think the real dividing line with this question of whether schools should be open is a geographic one. I mean, I think you see on Staten Island and areas of South Brooklyn, they were not only hit a little bit harder with the snow, but there's no mass transit on Staten. I mean, I think people are generally driving or taking a bus to school, and the roads, if they're not passable, is really going to pose a problem for people.
Okay, thanks a lot, Bobby. Let's take a short break now. When we come back, I'll be joined by Christina Farrell, the new Emergency Management Commissioner, to talk about her first time responding to a significant winter storm as head of the department. Stay with us.
Every day tells a new story. At Mornings on One, we're dedicated to bringing you the stories that matter most to start your day. With in-depth coverage of the day's news.
I'm Pat Kernan. Here are the stories we're following.
And weather updates every 10 minutes.
Tomorrow, some morning sunshine possible. Clouds take over.
It's our responsibility to get you the information you need before you head out the door. Mornings on One. Weekdays starting at 6 on the Spectrum News app. Free for Spectrum and Xfinity customers.
The storm came through with 120-mile-an-hour winds through our neighborhood. My daughter had to evacuate to our house while we were out of town. Sure enough, power goes out. When the generator kicked back on, it, of course, powered the Spectrum modem. She didn't lose service, and we didn't lose connectivity with her through the entire storm. We both breathed a sigh of relief. To have her feel safe and us feel reassured that she was okay was priceless.
Real customers, real reliability. To get the most reliable internet, visit spectrum.com/stay connected.
I'm Sandra, this is Jorge, and we were adopted in 2019. I remember when they first came to us, Michael was already a teenager. The whole cliche of they're so lucky to have you guys, and it's the other way around. They have changed our family for the better. They chose to love us. They didn't have to. They chose us. Family.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org.
Going into the 2026 election, local races will determine national policy, from the economy to public safety. From the governor's race to the balance of power in Washington, this year's ballot has no shortage of important choices. Let Spectrum News New York One be your resource for balanced, up-to-date coverage and analysis, so you can know what the issues are and how they impact your community. Always dedicated, always local, always on. Decision 2026 on Spectrum News New York One. Welcome back to Inside City Hall, where we are turning back to the aftermath of today's powerful winter storm. New York One meteorologists say that the snow will begin to melt soon thanks to higher temperatures above the freezing mark, unlike last month's snowstorm. While they say the heavy snowfall is over, city officials are still advising New Yorkers to take public transportation when possible and to prepare for slippery road conditions while driving, walking, or biking. Joining me now to talk more about the city's snow operations is Christina Farrell, the new Emergency Management Commissioner. Welcome to the program. Good to see you.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
The worst of the storm apparently is now behind us, but what can you tell us about the New Yorkers who have lost power? I know electricity went out in parts of Queens in particular. Any sense of when that might be restored?
So happily, the large outage in the Rockaways, that was restored about half an hour ago. So, you know, it was a long day out there, I'm sure, but we're very happy that all that power is back. There are some smaller power outages here and there. Nothing huge at the moment.
As we reported earlier, there's a bit of controversy about whether or not public schools should be holding classes in person tomorrow. Will conditions be safe for students and staff by tomorrow? Will the streets be passable as far as you're concerned?
I believe in our sanitation department. You know, we all work very hard, but if you think about the winter that our sanitation workers have had, they've been on, you know, split shifts. We talk a lot about the 12-hour shifts. They went on those about January 22nd for that first storm. I think they just went off last Wednesday. And then all of a sudden this Saturday, they were back on. And so, you know, they are working all through the night and other, you know, you had Deputy Chancellor Moran on there before. All the schools, they have 8,000 people working, and the EOC is coordinating this if people need other resources. So, you know, we feel like we will be ready. We know this is a lot of snow. We know this is a rough winter. People still need to take it slow, take it safe. But, you know, this is where we are.
Okay, that's what the city workers have to do. There's a role for private landowners, too, or homeowners. The end of the storm was officially declared at 4:30. That means property owners have to shovel their sidewalks by, what, 8:30 tonight?
Yeah, they do have those rules in place, but I know, you know, I was just on an elected call with elected officials and other agency officials an hour ago, and I believe that there is an extended time over the evening tonight because, you know, we know how rough this has been. You know, like I know the mayor, the sanitation commissioner has said, you know, this really isn't about enforcement. This is making the city passable, walkable for everyone, making sure that the 4 feet is there for people that may use wheelchairs, strollers. So, you know, we are all in this together. We have learned that time and time again. And we will continue working as a city to get hopefully to spring pretty soon.
Yeah, indeed. In fact, right, as a reminder to those who do have to shovel, it needs to be a 4-foot path, not just a sort of a narrow way for you to get out of your house. I'm curious, what weather models does your agency, does the city rely on to make decisions about snowfalls?
So you know, our gold standard who we work with closely is the National Weather Service. But since 2019, we have had our own on-staff meteorologist. We have a woman now with a PhD who has been very busy over the last few months. She is fantastic. She can really take those National Weather Service models and translate it specifically for the different boroughs for what's going on in the city. We also have a contractor that we work with because she does sometimes need to sleep or take a day off. And then we're always checking in. Sanitation has different weather vendors, Con Ed. And so, you know, we look at all the different models. Everything in emergency management is contingency. It's looking at all the different plans. It's taking imperfect information and translating that into steps. And so, you know, we always like at plan A, B, C, D.
You mentioned to my one of my colleagues earlier today that you spent last night at the office to make sure the city response was on point. What about tonight? You going home?
I am going home. Yeah, you can probably see there is a couch behind me. Yeah. That's where I slept last night. I was up, slept is a relative term. I was up, every 2 hours as needed, making sure, checking in with the team, all of the agencies. And I was, this morning when that big Rockaway outage came, I got up a little earlier than maybe I had expected on that 2-hour turn. But this evening I am going home to my family for a quick turnaround before I come back tomorrow morning.
Okay, very well deserved. When it comes to these kinds of storms, and this is, of course, budget season, so there has to be a lot of projecting about what New York might need over the next 2 years. Are you always planning for events like this to happen?
We are. That is one of our core competencies, and we're always looking. Even last Wednesday, we had the first deputy mayor, other deputy mayors, city agency heads in here, and we were looking at the operations of that last storm, what could be better. We were hoping that we were taking those lessons to apply them maybe for a storm next year. It turned out we were going to apply them to a storm 3 days later. But one thing we're looking at more and more, we've talked a lot about different events, is extreme weather. We were looking at some of the biggest storms in the city over the last 20 years, and there's the blizzard of 1888. There was a big storm in 1978, but there's a surprising amount of storms that were 2010, 2016. So, and then before we know it, we'll be in heat season, which gets more and more extreme. So our planners are thinking of every scenario and what the city can do to be prepared.
Okay. Well, we thank you for the work that you are doing, and we look forward to talking again. We always have to bring you on when there's sort of bad or at least worrying news, but we thank you all and your staff for getting us through it all.
Thank you very much. Good to see you.
Okay, we're going to take a short break now. When we come back, Umate Kitase, the new commissioner of the Department of Citywide Administrative Services, will join me to talk about that agency's snow operations. Stay with us.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
There's nothing quite like the feeling of going to the theater. Onstage celebrates that excitement every week by taking you behind the scenes with the latest news and in-depth interviews of the hottest shows on and off Broadway. So grab a seat, because this is a show you won't want to miss. Join us every Saturday and Sunday at 7:30 p.m. for Onstage.
Onstage is presented by your Tri-State Cadillac dealers. Discover which Cadillac is right for you and elevate your journey.
I had a heart attack about 1.5 years ago, and so now I have an ICD implant that needs stable and reliable internet to give routine checks and daily reports to my cardiologist. When my cardiologist told me he wasn't getting the information he needed, me and my fiance looked into better internet providers, and we found Spectrum. As soon as we switched, he said he saw every daily report, every routine check that they did. It made us feel like we were back in control of my life.
Real customers, real reliability. To get the most reliable internet, visit Spectrum.com.
Mom was always organized, but she started forgetting to pay her bills on time.
And she'd buy the same gifts over and over. Telling the girls about my Alzheimer's diagnosis was really hard.
At first, we had our cries, but then we were like, okay, let's make a plan.
Early detection gave us time to adapt together.
It's so important for you to think about what you can do and making the most of what you have.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
From my time growing up in Queens watching New York One to my time reporting here, I've seen how quickly a story can change. At News All Day, we bring you the news as it's happening, from around the boroughs to local government to your neighborhood, because our city never stops moving.
Hi, I'm Shannon Ferry with the day's developing stories, but first,
stay up to date and informed with News All Day, weekdays from noon to 4.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall, where we are keeping the focus on the aftermath of the big winter storm. This morning, Mayor Mamdani visited a storehouse operated by the city's Department of Citywide Administrative Services, DCAS for short. That's where the city has stored tons of road salt and other critical supplies that are being distributed to agencies like the sanitation department. The department is also tasked with monitoring city vehicles to keep them operational as cleanup continues across the 5 boroughs. Joining me now to talk more about all of this is Yume Kitase, the new commissioner of the Department of Citywide Administrative Services. Welcome to the program. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. The mayor I saw was with you at the Central Storehouse today. What goes on at that big salt pile? What did you guys do to get it distributed properly all across the city?
Yeah, so thank you, Errol. So I love DCAS, by the way. I think it's the most interesting agency that most New Yorkers have never heard of. And one of the things that we do, as you mentioned, is we have the Central Storehouse where we have a lot of supplies. And it's basically like a giant big box wholesaler for other city agencies. So when they have supplies that they need, like bags of salt, blankets, they can come to us and they can either pick it up at our storehouse or we'll deliver it to them.
Okay, very interesting. I want to show a video of a truck that's owned by the Parks Department. I'm sure you saw some of this. It was stuck in a sinkhole outside of City Hall. What is the latest on that?
I did see it, and my understanding from my team is that it is, I think, in the progress of being removed. When I walk out of here tonight, I will go check and make sure that it is has been dealt with.
Yeah, I mean, there's tons and tons of equipment spread all over the city, of course. I saw you were in a video with the Manhattan Borough President, Brad Hoylman-Siegel, the two of you shoveling snow outside the David Dinkins Municipal Building in Manhattan. How did you prepare to deal with all of the city-owned buildings that I guess are your responsibility as the snow bears down on them?
Yeah, so Errol, I want to give a shout out to our 200 custodial staff who are here, cleaning the streets every couple hours, going out and shoveling, and also the 40 electricians, engineers, and other technical staff who've been staying overnight in our buildings to make sure the boilers are still running, and our DCAS police. We have a large staff across all of our buildings, and we've just been trying to keep everything clear. And that includes also the sidewalks and the bus shelters nearby as well.
Does the city own big snow melting machines? I don't know when this came about, but I think I saw a photo of one. And I was wondering about these so-called hot tubs. How much snow can they melt? When did this become a part of city operations?
So the snow melting machines, that's very cool. I mean, I will say that is not a DCAS. We'd probably love to have one ourselves, but that is not something that DCAS has, so we'd have to work with the Department of Sanitation on that.
Okay, fair enough. Now, you are a veteran of City Hall. You worked under both the Adams and de Blasio administrations. You've been, I guess, here at DCAS for a little over 3 weeks. What do you plan to make your big focus at this very large agency that impacts every New Yorker, whether they know it or not?
Yes, so DCAS, for your viewers who may not know what it is, we do everything from, I'm gonna say there's six main things that we do. We do building management, real estate, fleet, energy management, workforce policy, and citywide procurement. And I would say of that big bundle, there are 3 things that I think are most urgent. The first is recruitment, retention, and faster hiring of city workers, incredibly important for all of our agencies. Making the most of city property and leveraging our property in creative ways, and of course, hitting really aggressive climate goals.
Yeah, I didn't even plan to get into the hiring part, but I know that is a main function. A lot of city workers, I think, know of DCAS because you administer the civil service tests. We've done a lot of reporting on the bottlenecks and the length of hiring and onboarding employees that has been identified as a factor in really some agencies falling behind on their headcount. What powers do you have to streamline that process?
Yeah, I mean, I will just say there are a lot of reasons why hiring is challenging in the city. Some of it is within DCAS and some of it is outside of DCAS. I think all of it is stuff that we should work on. Some of it is structural and how the system is sort of set up. And some of it is also technological, like things like, tests that are administered by paper. We can modernize that and make it digital and all of that. So we're looking at it from soup to nuts, from A to Z, and just trying to speed everything up all along the process.
Okay, and then I guess before I let you go, Is there some specialized equipment that you would like to have? I see sort of new gadgets out there on the street from time to time. We mentioned the hot tubs, but I also have seen these sort of, I don't know what to call them other than like mini dump trucks that take a lot of the snow away on certain corners. And I wonder if there's more out there that we should be purchasing.
You know, I think for us, the thing, like, you know, it's all the things that you don't see behind the scenes. One of the things that we've been really doing as part of our, you know, both our climate work and also just our building maintenance work is upgrading our boilers and things like that. So, you know, that's really important, not just to make sure that we have continuous service and heating our building. And so our, you know, our city workers who come to work are at a good temperature, but also it's making sure that, you know, that we are, you know, using our fuel in a most energy efficient way.
Okay, we'll leave it there for now. Thanks so much for a job well done. Thanks for spending some time with us tonight.
Thanks very much.
All right, we're going to take a short break now. When we come back, New York One has eyes and ears across the 5 boroughs as the snow cleanup continues. We're going to check in with reporters in far Rockaway, Queens, and on Staten Island. Stay with us.
My time at New York One has shown me that in the city that never sleeps, the news never stops. So as the day winds down, turn to the rush hour.
Good afternoon, I'm Monica Perkins.
To catch up on the stories that matter across the 5 boroughs, with in-depth interviews from the city's newsmakers, plus the latest forecast. Catching you up with today, preparing you for tomorrow. Right here on the Rush Hour. Weekdays from 4 to 7 p.m.
The Nanakuli Valley is the largest Hawaiian community in the state of Hawaii. Because of Spectrum and their investment, Alulike is a place that people can come and access technology. Many of our participants don't have computers at home. We have programs that help students, that help adults get employment. Spectrum gives us the tools to help more people get there.
I'm Chris Jakovic. I served in the United States Air Force and I deployed 3 times. So in 2017, I was serving as an Air Force First Sergeant. Our motto in that role is my job is people, everyone is my business. But unfortunately in that year, I would lose my own brother, Lance Corporal Adam Jakovic, to suicide. The majority of veteran suicides are from guns. I store my weapons securely, not only for myself, but for my family. My service never stops.
At Spectrum Noticias, we recognize that our New York City community is vibrant and diverse.
Spectrum Noticias delivers balanced coverage of the stories that matter in our communities and across the country.
Our journalists are based in the neighborhoods we cover, ensuring you get in-depth reporting on what's happening in the places we call home.
So join us at Spectrum Noticias. We're always on, always there for you.
Now available on your TV. Check your local listings. Also available on the Spectrum News app.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. Residents of Far Rockaway, Queens are starting to dig out this evening after the winter storm dumped more than 21 inches on that neighborhood. And that's where we find New York One's Rebecca Greenberg. She joins us now from Rockaway Beach with a look at the conditions. Good evening, Rebecca.
Well, hi there, Earl. Yeah, the conditions are pretty rough out here in Rockaway Beach. I have to say, we're standing in what was once a parking spot. Someone managed to claw their way out of here somehow, but the snow is several feet high on either side of me. I'm estimating about 3.5 feet, and that just goes to show how much snow has been cleared off the roads and is now being piled onto either side of cars. And clearly whoever was here did not learn their lesson, was not listening to New York One when we were hearing that it's actually good to park on the left side of the street because these plows tend to push that snow up against cars parked on the right side of the street. So we have been seeing drivers struggling, shoveling their way out of these parking spots, and it is not easy. We've been speaking to people all evening, some of whom said that they actually had to shovel themselves out 3 different times because of all the accumulation that we were seeing. As you mentioned, 21 inches of snow here in the Rockaways, and that is even more than what we saw in JFK just a few miles away, a little less than 20 inches of snow. So really significant, and there's a lot of hazardous conditions happening out here. We also have really strong wind because we are right on the water here. We know now at this hour even 20-mile-per-hour winds, but those wind gusts are up to 35 miles per hour. So even though it is not snowing, the wind gusts still really high. But we've been speaking to New Yorkers to say, hey, this is how it goes. We used to have really intense snowstorms in the past, and we just have another one.
We manage. We get through. I grew up in Brooklyn, so we had this all the time growing up. Right? The new generations, they don't know about this. We used to have this every other week in the winter.
So for me, and I have no complaint. To be honest with you, I'm a very positive person. And complaint's not going to do anything.
Winds were crazy, you know, and we lost power for about a half an hour this morning, but it was only for half an hour, so that was really good. It's wet snow. It's not the soft, fluffy kind, although you see me dragging it and just, I said I'm sorry, but I can't lift it. It's just too heavy.
Now, about 12,500 customers did lose power in the Rockaways this morning around 4:30 a.m. Luckily, less than a dozen customers experiencing outages at this hour. Some people say it lasted maybe an hour and a half. Some people weren't even awake when the outage happened, so no harm, no foul, but still very, very important when you're dealing with these hazardous conditions. Residents have also been telling me that the sanitation department has been doing a pretty good job clearing the roads. The city did lift its travel ban for those non-essential vehicles at noon today, but the mayor is still urging New Yorkers to be cautious. And we do have a hazardous travel advisory in effect until midnight. But some good news for drivers who are parked out here on the snowy roads. Luckily, the alternate side parking is suspended through Sunday. But you definitely don't want to wait until Sunday to start digging out your car. Luckily, right now, the snow is pretty light and fluffy, but there is a lot of it. So the sooner you clear it out, the better.
All right, somebody's going to want that space. That is prime real estate. Thanks a whole lot, Rebecca. We go now to Staten Island, where some residents and local officials say they are unhappy with the Mamdani administration's response to the winter storm today. Our Lewis Finley joins me now from West Brighton with the latest from there. How's it looking, Lewis?
Yeah, Errol, residents are extremely frustrated with the lack of plows that have come through their area. You know, Staten Island really hit hard here. Some unofficial snowfall totals go as high as 2 feet. The main arteries of Staten Island are pretty well plowed, but then when you come to roads like this off of them here on Hartford Avenue, you see scenes much like this, where people are, in this case, digging the streets out themselves. According to the city's own website, this street right here hasn't been plowed for at least 12 hours. We talked to some residents earlier as they were digging out. Here's what they had to say.
I'm hoping that they come down with another plow. Apparently they haven't come down since like 11 p.m. last night. So, you know, I got work tomorrow. My wife works in the schools. They said the schools are in tomorrow. So, yeah, I don't know how we're getting there.
This is a dead end, so basically we're used to this, basically having it. But with that little plow, other snowstorms like last year and even the last storm, they did come. Now, there was no one.
Yeah, that's why we're here. While elected leaders acknowledge sanitation crews have been hard at work, they say cleanup was poorly planned here on Staten Island. City schools are back in person tomorrow, and both the borough president and Assemblyman Mike Tanusa say with the current state of the roads, that's putting residents in unnecessary danger.
Staten Islanders will survive, but I think the response from the city at the upper levels was not good. The notion that they should open public schools tomorrow, I think, is really irresponsible. You've seen some of these streets in Staten Island. You can't even drive down the streets.
A lot of my constituents have been forced to utilize some of the streets unsafely because a lot of sidewalks have not been cleaned. Obviously, we received a significant amount of snow, but the city's response this time around was not adequate.
Now, the sanitation commissioner spoke to us earlier, and he said this morning dozens of pieces of equipment were deployed throughout the borough. As you see right behind me, this guy's trying to get out. There's a lot of snow here, but Errol, I think the gods of city officials have heard us, because right there you see on time a plow coming through. Errol.
Oh, yeah, well, it's about time, right? I mean, unlike other parts of the city, they only have the equipment that they have, right? They can't suddenly ship a bunch of trucks over to Staten Island if they're not already there, I guess. They weren't really positioned.
Oh, here they are.
Oh, okay. All right. He's dealing with a situation there. We're going to take a short break now. When we come back, I'll talk more about the Mamdani administration's winter storm response when I'm joined by my weekly Consultants Corner. Stay with us.
After 30 years of forecasting for New York, I've learned it takes a dedicated team to cover all the weather our city has to offer. As chief meteorologist at New York One, I'm honored to be able to help New Yorkers plan their day.
Morning, noon, or night, our team is here to bring you accurate forecasts you can count on, from severe weather updates to our Weather on the Ones. Watch the New York One weather experts with your Weather on the Ones on your TV and on the go with the Spectrum News app.
I moved from Dallas to Los Angeles all by myself. The order of things I wanted to set up was internet, water, then power. I needed to take a shower, but I really did need the internet for work and to watch my shows. That's kind of a crazy thing to admit in front of a camera. Pretend I didn't say that. I got to Spectrum. I was so relieved that I was getting the best bang for my buck. It was a huge weight taken off of my shoulders.
Real customers, real savings. To see how much you can save, visit spectrum.com/save.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. 2 milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable.
The sad reality is fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kitchen now.
My father was a New York City firefighter. My mission, like his, is to serve New Yorkers in a city that doesn't stop when the sun goes down. Being with New York One since the beginning, I'm now honored to join you even earlier each weeknight. Starting at 8 with New York Tonight, we'll explore the latest news developments, followed by New York One at 10 to wrap up your day. So join me each weeknight starting at 8 right here on New York One.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. Today's powerful snowstorm comes after a week of pushback on Mayor Mamdani's proposal to raise property taxes, what he called a last resort effort to balance the city budget. Joining me now to talk about that and much more are the members of this week's Consultants Corner. We have Democratic consultant John Paul Lupo with us and political consultant and state Republican committee woman Cherie Murray. Thank you both for being here. Good to see you. Actually, before we get into the basics of it, what do each of you make of the city's snow response? It's always at least partly political in nature, at least the reaction to it. What do you think, Cherie?
Well, I was very disappointed in the first snowstorm with all of the trash piling up in front of my house. But I will say this time around, the mayor made more of an effort to communicate to New Yorkers. I think there was more of a, more comprehensive all of government approach where he communicated about sanitation. We saw the MTA chair talk more about, the buses and the trains. And so I think it was more of an all hands on deck with the snow shovelers and increasing their pay to $30 an hour. So hopefully tomorrow when my kids go back to school, we won't be stepping over high piles of snow and so forth. And it's a smooth commute as well.
Okay. What do you think, John Paul?
I don't know what people who criticize the last snow response think was supposed to happen with a foot plus of snow and frigid temperatures. It wasn't going anywhere. They did a fine job. I do agree with Cherie. The communication on this storm was excellent. Errol, if you remember on Friday at noon, the mayor tweeted, we expect 2 to 4 inches, 6 tops. Now we're sitting here at 2 feet. They switched the communication very quickly. Traffic ban in place. They kept people safe. I think last I looked, no storm-related deaths reported. That's really the ball game is, can you communicate effectively enough in advance to keep people safe? DSNY will do their job over the next few days and week to get all this snow cleared, but there's nothing you can do about winter. They did a great job.
And John Paul, let's switch to the main business at hand. Politically speaking, there's this business of a last resort property tax increase that from the Republicans on Staten Island to the progressives in the Bronx, all across the board, people just said, no way, no how, bad idea. Was this a strategic mistake on his part, or is this, him, I guess, explaining what choices are available to him?
Well, I think the mayor said he didn't want a property tax increase. He was amongst the voices saying he thought a property tax increase was a bad idea. I think it was very strategic. I don't necessarily think it was about his negotiations over an income tax increase. I do think they had a big challenge. We're used to the budget dance in New York City. I participated in 6 of them. It's notorious. You say there's not enough money. You fight over what's going to be spent on. They clearly believe, the mayor, first deputy mayor, budget director, that this $5.4 billion gap is real, and people were not taking it seriously. Well, that ended once they said, we're increasing property taxes 9.5% if we don't get an income tax increase. Now the conversation has shifted. The gaps are being taken very seriously. I think that was their main objective is, we have a crisis. We need you to understand it. I might not have chosen to say I'm going to increase your property taxes if we don't get our way in Albany, but the seriousness of what's going on with what they're calling an Adams budget crisis, the inherited gaps, is now front and center. So in that way, they got their job done over the past week.
And and Cherie Murray, this only differs in type and in size, but every budget year, or nearly every budget year, you hear threats to reduce library hours or close senior centers or shut down firehouses. To a certain extent, this is maybe not even all that unusual, is it?
Well, it's not, Errol, but this budget dance looks more like the Paso Doble. And there needs to be, some back and forth, maybe with the governor or New York City residents. We saw in Cambria Heights a loud rally, denouncing the mayor's second proposal of the possibility of raising property taxes upwards of 9.5%. And so, is this a bluff? Is he calling a bluff with the governor? I don't think he's going to win this fight. The city council has denounced it. The city council speaker has denounced it. Brad Lander has denounced it. The Queensborough president has denounced it, along with New York City voters. And so, he needs to go back to the drawing table. This preliminary budget of $127 billion, you can see cuts. He needs to cut some of the DEI programs that he's starting to roll out, the new DEI hires. And of course, as you stated, Errol, libraries and things of that nature may see some rollbacks, but he definitely needs to go back to the drawing board.
When you say DEI hires, are you talking about anybody in particular? I mean, we just interviewed a couple of the new commissioners. He seems to have some real government veterans that he's lining up to work in the administration.
I mean, there are some programs that he's also outlined specific to DEI. And I think he needs to take a look at some of those and roll those back, although it would not amount to, the $5 billion where we're seeing that deficit. but there are areas that he needs to squeeze, and it's not going to be squeezed on the backs of the taxpayers.
Okay, let's take a short break. I've got more to talk about with these consultants. We'll do that in 2 minutes. Stay with us.
We have so many ways to stay connected. A single touch can bring us closer to the families we love, the friends we know, and the city we share. And Spectrum helps us keep connected throughout the day, every day. Including more ways to watch New York One as a Spectrum Internet customer. Watch Spectrum News New York One on the Spectrum News app, available on all your favorite devices.
I don't know if the world knows this, but kids are expensive. And when we found out we were pregnant, of course, we were looking for any ways to slash bills.
And making sure we only had what we needed so that everything was less stressful.
And saving money with our internet bill really helped us out a lot. Came to Spectrum because we were with AT&T before, and Spectrum just had better deals.
That money we saved with Spectrum just added to what we could repurpose for our daughter.
Real customers, real savings. To see how much you can save, visit spectrum.com/save.
Every day tells a new story. At Mornings on One, we're dedicated to bringing you the stories that matter most to start your day. With in-depth coverage of the day's news.
I'm Pat Kernan. Here are the stories we're following.
And weather updates every 10 minutes.
Tomorrow, some morning sunshine possible. Clouds take over.
It's our responsibility to get you the information you need before you head out the door. Mornings on One. Weekdays starting at 6 on the Spectrum News app. Free for Spectrum and Xfinity customers.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
Going into the 2026 election, local races will determine national policy, from the economy to public safety. From the governor's race to the balance of power in Washington, this year's ballot has no shortage of important choices. Let Spectrum News New York One be your resource for balanced, up-to-date coverage and analysis, so you can know what the issues are and how they impact your community. Always dedicated, always local, always on. Decision 2026 on Spectrum News New York One.
Part of our vision in establishing a Department of Community Safety is to start to take that responsibility of mental health crises and task mental health responders with that work, and to ensure that police can focus on the work that they signed up to focus on, which is tackling violent crime across the city.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall, where I am once again joined by my Consultants Corner, Democratic consultant John Paul Lupo and political consultant Cherie Murray. And John Paul Lupo, I know you worked for a bit in the de Blasio administration. They hired a deputy mayor to do special things and have cross-cutting authority to put in place a whole new program that we now call Universal Pre-Kindergarten. Is that what this mayor is aiming to do with this Department of Community Safety?
Well, I think you have to make sure that there are people in place who can get your priorities done. If you're taking the department seriously, you need to make sure you have folks from EMS involved. You need to make sure you have folks from the health department involved. It's going to spread across a wide variety of agencies. You need a point person in City Hall who's focused on that and can herd all the cats and make sure that happens. It's really smart to do that. We had Rich Bury, who was in charge of all things pre-K. He was able to take 7, 8, 9 agencies, get them all at the table, and get 70,000 kids in pre-K seats within 18 months. So it's a great model. I think it's really smart. They've got some work to do on the legislative side to create the department. In the meantime, you get a senior city hall staffer involved in ensuring that the policy is implemented quickly. I think it's really smart.
And Cherie, I know there are going to be a lot of questions that are raised. There are those who never thought it was a good idea in the first place, but this is one of those campaign promises. It wasn't, you know, sort of in the top 3, like freezing the rent or fast and free buses, but it is something he talked about on the campaign trail over and over again, something that he's pretty much got to do at this point.
Absolutely, Errol. As long as he does not mess with the NYPD. New Yorkers are adamant about safety. And so we noticed in the preliminary budget, you know, he kept the cap on the number of law enforcement officers. But as long as this looks nothing like Thrive NYC, you know, with the former mayor and, you know, the funneling of millions and millions of dollars and nothing really happening to combat, you know, mental illness across the city, you know, I say, let's see what he can do. But a lot of the things that he did promise on the campaign trail, and I've said it before on the show, he could have delivered as an Albany legislator. So let's just see what happens with his Department of Community Safety.
Okay. In our last couple of minutes, I'd love to hear from each of you. What will you be listening for in tomorrow's State of the Union address? You never quite know what to expect from President Trump, and everybody's, I think, going to be listening out for something in particular. How about you, Cherie?
Well, you know, the president recently took a hit with the Supreme Court ruling of, you know, pulling back his tariffs. But I'm interested to see how he delivers on his economic promise to America. You know, we're looking ahead to a massive tax boom. And so that's one of the things I'll be really listening closely for. The Supreme Court justices will be in the room, so I hope he just keeps it, you know, nice and sweet as he talks about his tariffs and you know, how he's going to continue to deliver for the American people.
Okay, I would love to see Mr. Trump do anything nice and sweet. We will see. How about you, John Paul?
Well, you know, this administration jumped the shark the minute it got in office. We were supposed to get a better economy. We got tariffs that made life harder. We were supposed to end wars. Now, apparently, we're going to war in the Middle East with Iran. So I don't think there's anything good that will come of it. I hope we get an positive update on Gateway, maybe. The president should know how important that is for the regional economy. He lived here for a long time. Hopefully, he sees the better angels on his shoulder and gives us some good news on some funding for our tunnels.
Yep, we of course will be listening closely for that as well. John Paul Lupo, Cherie Murray, thank you both for joining us. That is going to do it for tonight's show. Thanks for watching and have a great evening. We'll see you next time inside City Hall. Going into the 2026 election, local races will determine national policy, from the economy to public safety. From the governor's race to the balance of power in Washington, this year's ballot has no shortage of important choices. Let Spectrum News New York One be your resource for balanced, up-to-date coverage and analysis, so you can know what the issues are and how they impact your community. Always dedicated, always local, always on. Decision 2026 on Spectrum News New York One.
This is a very special place. It is a place where we like to think we make memories.
We have the capacity for nearly 20,000 people in the arena.
Working at a building like this, you have access to so many resources. It's about utilizing the tools that we have to be able to create those memories for our partners, for our fans, and for anybody who steps into this building. At the end of the game, they're going to leave here feeling like they enjoyed the experience, enjoyed the game, and that's what we're here for.
A venue like this has a lot of moving parts, but at its heart, it has its technology backbone.
Spectrum powers scoreboards, ticketing, point of sales. They also provide a highly secure network that takes care of fan security, security of the Wi-Fi access, and any data that our fans are sharing while in the arena.
Our fans have an expectation that technology is part of their experience, and Spectrum helps us do that.
There's
There's nothing quite like the feeling of going to the theater. Onstage celebrates that excitement every week by taking you behind the scenes with the latest news and in-depth interviews of the hottest shows on and off Broadway. So grab a seat, because this is a show you won't want to miss. Join us every Saturday and Sunday at 7:30 p.m. for Onstage.
On Stage is presented by your Tri-State Cadillac dealers. Discover which Cadillac is right for you and elevate your journey.
Climate change is happening now.
Does it feel